I have it.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? This is Vin Messina, the Vin of the Curious Marketer with Vin. Today, as a continuation of our series on the fundamentals of online marketing, I am speaking with world-renowned expert in online marketing and all things SEO, Ammon Johns. Say hello, Ammon.
Hello, Ammon. Every time.
So, so today, let me get this set up. So today, we are going to talk about something that I think is beaten to death, but maybe not beaten in the right way. We're going to talk about social media marketing. And I think we're going to try to capitalize on the things that we've discussed thus far with regards to having the right strategy, having the right mindset going in, and how social really fits into developing an online presence that then fits into your overall marketing strategy or marketing plan. So with that, to kick things off, let's talk about maybe a little bit of the history of social from your perspective, the evolution of it. It's still relatively young. People sort of talk about it like it's ancient history, but it's really not that old at all.
Well, the internet itself isn't that old at all. Of course, technically, social media is the internet. Email is a form of social media. You can include several people. You can include just one person. You can, pass across almost anything you like through it. The forums certainly are social media. They were the first of the social networks. You joined a forum, there was a whole community of people there. You could post, you could share, you could do all kinds of things. So social media is broader than social networks. Social networks are the big ones we know about. Really, the first one to really grab attention was probably MySpace. But Facebook came along, blew MySpace out of the water, and it's maintained its domination for a long time, partly because it combined a lot of different activities in one. The ability to play games together was a huge move for Facebook, and personally, it's one of the things that's always surprised me about Google Plus is that they didn't include a load of social games. They've got a Google Play Store. They've got more reason to want to tie games into the experience than anybody else should have.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because when I think about social, and as this conversation unfolds, we're going to talk about what the word social means really in terms of social media, social network, social whatever. But games, certainly, the history of Facebook is such that it was built to be social, to be a social application for Ivy League students to talk to each other about each other's resumes and share life experiences and connect across schools. MySpace was purely social. It really didn't have a marketing component at all. It was a place to post pictures and videos and that kind of thing, sort of give people a sense of who you are. Very similar to LinkedIn, I think, if you will, but not professional, right? Very personal. And Facebook kind of took it in a different direction. So from a marketing perspective then, when did businesses wake up to the notion that, well, hey, if this is where eyeballs are, then we got to get there on these channels?
Straight away. Honestly, as long as there have been places people gather, businesses have been saying, oh, look, there's a lot of people there, let's advertise to them. So going right back to IRC chat before the web was really big, the bulletin board servers, as long as there's eyeballs, businesses will sooner or later start to think, there's a lot of eyeballs there, let's get something in front of them.
So there was advertising even in the forums to begin with. This is it's sort of been they've come along together. Social media marketing, forum marketing is okay. So these were always,
it was more basic. It was pretty much show everyone the same thing. They weren't tying the social data to who they were advertising to. So what you'd do to target a demographic is you'd pick a community that was filled with people of that demographic. That was it.
Gotcha. So that's a good segue. So when we first started this conversation, I don't know how many months ago, the first part of the series was developing your strategy. And a big component of your strategy is determining who you're going to be selling to. And, why do they buy what you're selling? Why do they buy anything? Really understanding who they are. So when we're talking about getting involved in social, you just said to me a mouthful, and that is you determine where the folks that you're trying to engage or reach congregate. And so that's a pretty important step, wouldn't you say?
Yes, but you also sometimes have to realize the most important thing about social is that people often gather outside of work to get away from work. They don't want to talk about business. They don't want to talk about uh, shopping. They don't want to, they want to talk socially, and trying to force it back into a kind of business-like conversation is sometimes entirely what they don't want and why they're there to get away from stuff like that.
Yeah. See, the point is it's not just that they're there; it's why they're there. And I think the why they're there, and I'm not a social media expert by any stretch. I don't market myself as such, but I'm looking and sort of observing over the last 2 years in particular on the common sense of it all. Is why are people here? And particularly if you're looking at business to consumer, the consumer is there to do a lot of things, but most of it is to socially engage with friends and family and peer-to-peer networks, if you will, but still on a social front. So if we're looking at it from a pure marketing perspective, we want to identify where the people are congregating, where the folks are, and then we want to meet them on their terms, the terms that they've defined for their engagement on those social networks, whether it be Google Plus, Twitter, or Facebook, correct?
Absolutely.
And so even when we're advertising, really what we're doing is we're trying to build advertising campaigns that I think are geared more towards social than they are towards product dumping. The bottom line here is that no one's here to consume features and benefits of whatever it is that you're selling. Is this true?
Absolutely. Most people on a social network are going to have conversations that they want with people they want. It does depend a little bit on network. This is why LinkedIn can be so good for businesses, because people are in a business frame of mind when they're on there. It's a professional network. They expect to be talking about work, often their own. So if yours ties in with that, if what you're selling ties in with what they do, they're in the right mindset for that. But Facebook is more for catching up with people you already know. What are the people I went to school with up to these days? What are my neighbours doing? Um, unless you can tie into that mindset, you're going to really struggle to be anything but interruptive and getting in the way of what they're trying to do. You're actually an obstacle in their path, and people don't necessarily think kindly of obstacles.
So let's talk then about purpose. So when we think about anything we're going to do from a marketing tactic point of view, we want to think about what are our expected outcomes, what are our goals and objectives, and of course they always tie into what's possible. But when we look at social, if we're going to just think from a marketing perspective, what are some of the things that businesses can expect from social? I mean, I'm thinking about things like, for example, driving website traffic, pure marketing driven outcomes, goals and objectives of engaging on social networks. What are the things that, let's list a few, give folks ideas if they don't have those ideas of what can they expect? What are some of the drivers? What are they looking to establish themselves with?
This is going to vary hugely by your business model, by your business type, by who it appeals to, and when it appeals to them. If you're a taxidermist, you're probably not going to do great on social media most of the time. People are more interested in sharing pictures of their living animals rather than wanting to see somebody that stuffs dead ones. Um, as a proctologist, you're probably not going to have a huge circle of friends saying, "Yeah, I use this guy all the time." Um, certainly certain things people want to keep private. They're not going to socialize. It's great to use social if you can tie into a social vibe, if you can tie into a social ethos. So if you're talking about community, you can tie in with all the rest of the society that's talking about your community, or even their own communities, as long as it translates. If you're doing something that ties into family and friends, great. That then hits where a family and friends based social network is. Otherwise, you need to find the ones that are discussing the thing that you are involved with. So if you've got software for webmasters, find a webmaster community. Don't use Facebook. Don't use, mothers groups. Find a webmasters group and work there. Find communities that work for you, where the right people in the right frame of mind are going to be.
So so let me clarify then. So when we find the right community, what outcomes can we expect? I'm more or less talking generically about people go into social thinking a certain thing when they don't really have a specific outcome or objective. One of the things might be to drive traffic to my website. So what do I need to do in order to drive traffic to my website? Well, certainly I have to go where people are going to pay attention, where the right people are going to pay attention. But I'm looking up front to establish there's traffic generation, there's referrals, there's content consumption, there's content sharing. In some businesses, B2C in particular, there could be actual conversions, meaning people actually shop directly linked from a social application of some sort, Facebook link to a website or an e-store kind of thing, where you're driving traffic to a store or e-commerce store. These are the things that I want to sort of highlight up front because it gives people some objectives of the realities of social. Because the biggest concern I have is when you look at the numbers, percentages of the activities that people actually participate in on social, it's almost predominantly social, as we're talking about here. So all this talk about sharing content, amplifying your content, if it's all marketing and business oriented or product oriented, it may not be something that people are doing. So what are realistic things to expect? What is a business supposed to expect from their engagement on social?
Okay. The biggest part of social networks is the ability to network socially. So if this is something that you could go out into your local town and get people to do, then it will probably work also on social media. If it isn't something that you could go out with a clipboard or something into the streets and make people do by interacting with them, it's not going to happen on social media either. Now, yeah, you can say, right, read my article, and some people will. Some people will just read the headline. Some people will just read the headline in the first paragraph. If you're actually trying to drive traffic through social, then you kind of need something that lots of people go, oh, what's that? Click it, but not take it too seriously. If you're trying to get a brand message across, often social's not the best way to go. It does depend, though. There are businesses that are more adaptable to that. There are people who are considered influential, and they can make a lot of traffic from social media because they're kind of famous. These are people that lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people follow. But your sandwich shop, probably not. A sandwich shop, what you're going to get really good at is letting people know what your specials are or your menu is this week. And it's just going to be the people that are interested, but it's keeping you top of mind for the week. If you've got a business, say you're an accountant, you want, you're good at getting referrals. Well, social media can be very good for that because it allows you to connect openly with those you're associated with, reminds them that you're there, lets them pass on your recommendation to others. They can give somebody the link to your profile on that social media page if they, don't fancy giving the website away. They can show some of your attitude. If much of your attitude is the fact that you're very, very good with kids when most dentists aren't, then social media can be a great way of encouraging those moms to pass on the fact when you get to the stage where you're sending your kid to the dentist for the first time, it's really important that dentist is good with kids. There's a huge market there, and moms talk at kindergarten and at those first school years. They compare notes on everything, and they pass a lot of recommendations to each other. Social media does the same thing. If it wouldn't work in life, it won't work in social media.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the key messages that I hope people take out of this particular discussion is that it's oftentimes, I just posted something about this recently, it's oftentimes what people are saying about you off your page than it is about what they're saying to you on your page. And so this notion of getting likes and getting followers and all that stuff is great and fine if you have the type of business where people want to engage. But really what the core of it is do your job, wow your patients, wow your clients, wow your customers, so that they go off into the world of social networks and they talk about you. They create buzz about you. It's an amplified way of creating this local influence. And so to me, it starts at the core, the foundation of what your business is. But certainly the things that you say make sense to me in terms of the business type. Some businesses just lend themselves better to being social. Restaurants, jump out at me, amusement parks. entertainment type businesses, clubs, and concert venues, these kinds of things that are just social by nature. The business model is social. It's a lot more difficult to be social when your business isn't necessarily social. But the trick is, I think, to try to be social, right?
Yes.
To me, the trick is if your business model is a proctologist, or something that isn't very social, maybe social isn't the venue for you. But if you decide you want to go there, the key message here is find ways to be social. Find ways of, for example, with the clients that I serve, I tell dentists, don't go on to Facebook and talk about dentistry all the time. Go out and talk about a restaurant you ate at, because the restaurant you ate at is social. It's part of the community. It's a social message, but it also engages your audience in such a way that not only will they talk about you in the restaurant, but they'll see the other things that are going on in your world. You'll be top of mind because you're using social to be top of mind, but you're using it in a social way. So you're not dumping content on people about how to floss their teeth, because people aren't going to Facebook to learn that. But you're dumping content on them that has to do with the things they are concerned about.
Yeah.
Community orientation.
The main thing is you don't create a strategy for social. You start with a strategy that maybe demands social, and then you put the right social strategy into place that fits with your overall strategy that demanded you use social. If your business plan doesn't call for social media, don't include it. Don't include it just because everyone else is doing it. But once you do know that there are things you want to achieve and that social media is the best place to do those, I'd say there's pretty much no business that can't come up with a strategy that works. Let's take that proctologist. What he starts doing is looking at famous villains through history, people that we tend to think very badly of, and he explores other sides to their character, and it becomes his thing. What is he doing? Well, he's showing you that somebody has to probe every asshole, and that sometimes it's not such a bad thing.
Yeah, but that's exactly right. And so, okay, so let's tie this back then to when we think about objectives. Again, I always go back to the simplification of the way I see sales and marketing in general, and that is you want to get known, you want to get chosen, you want to get referred. And I think that applies across the board, no matter how complex your business is. So when we're thinking in those terms, if getting known is important to you and you have an audience on social can definitely be a place for you to be in order to build some awareness. So the question then becomes, all right, now how do I make that work? If awareness is my objective, how do I reach that objective using social? I'm going to reach that objective using other means. It's a totally different topic of discussion. This is now I'm on Facebook. I want to make people aware of me. How do I do that? Well, you're not going to go in that by talking about medical procedures. You're going to go do that by talking about celebrity buttholes, because it's going to build, you're going to build a community around you. And whether any transaction occurs from that, it's not overly relevant, because you're really just about building awareness. You're staying top of mind, which is it's a critical thing.
Yeah. Let me give a practical example. There's a mobile phone company, and their SEO company had advised them, the previous SEO company had advised them to get a blog for links. And no. When I went and consulted with them, I advised them to get a blog. But it wasn't about links and it wasn't about SEO. What they had was they were dealing in a mobile phone market where they had whatever deals they could get from the carriers. So the different cell phone networks would provide them, we can do this phone at this price with a 24-month contract, and we can do this phone with an Xbox and an 18-month contract, and we can, that was it. But they got the deals they could get. They could negotiate, but they weren't the biggest player, which meant sometimes they weren't going to have the best deals. And I said, what you need is a reason for people to pay more. What you need is a strategy that allows you to not be the cheapest provider, where somebody can know that they can get it $10 cheaper somewhere else, but still want to get it from you. How do we make that connection? Well, that's where social media comes in. That's where saying, look, we are your friends in the business. We're people like you. We understand you. We get you. And when we say this is a great phone, this is how we've examined it, and this is why you can trust us. So that was why they had a blog. It was nothing to do with links. And
yeah,
it worked.
But what you're touching on here is the importance of determining what you need to do first, and then seeing, look, social is a tool. Social itself has a sub strategy, but social itself is a tactic. It's a tool that you use as a tactical campaign. Social, you can have a sub strategy on social, really, but really social is meant to achieve the objectives built into the business plan, marketing plan that are governed by your strategy. So if I have an objective to get known, if I have an objective to build relationships with such and such a group of people in the community, I find out they're on Facebook. Okay, now what do I need to do? My objective is to get these folks to talk about me or to build an emotional connection with my product or service. How do I do that using Facebook? It's not how do I use Facebook. It's how do I use Facebook to do this thing that I need to do, because I've determined that if I can do this, then I can achieve my business goals and objectives. Facebook becomes an instrument.
In fact, it goes back that step further back, where it's, I need to achieve this. What are the right tools to do this? And maybe Facebook isn't one of them. There are certain objectives that can be done more efficiently elsewhere. For most people, social media is terrible for a traffic driver, unless you want completely unengaged traffic who are just looking at the pretty pictures because they're not in a mindset for business. They're not in a mindset to have a party with a shoemaker. That's not what they want to do. Now, if you tap into a community of runners to show off your running shoes, maybe, because you're understanding their connection, you're making that connection with them. You're showing, look, we know about running. We don't just make shoes, we make running shoes for runners that are advised by runners, that are built for runners. We understand your lifestyle and these shoes fit. That works. That is where you would want to go with the social strategy. For other things, brand strategies, there's better places than social media, because social media is largely who associates with you and why.
Yeah, it's not a silver bullet. It's not a given. It's not like, oh, Facebook is the holy grail, or any of these networks are the holy grail. So let's talk a little bit then about when we get here. Let's say we've decided. The reason I want to bring this up is because there's all this debate constantly going on about engagement, or whatever. A lot of it depends on business model, what you sell, what you offer, the nature of your personality, whatnot. But when you get here, you've decided now, everybody agrees you should be on some social network, whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. They each have their own engagement mechanism. Twitter has the character limitation on and so forth. There's rules of the game. There's protocol, what you tweet, what you don't tweet. Facebook's the same. But generally speaking, let's talk about the principles. Everybody keeps saying companies are doing it wrong. So what's right?
Well, this is absolutely something each company is going to have to think up for itself. But right means you start with the broad strategy, your marketing strategy, your marketing plan. And then you look at where social has its right place as the right tool within that. There's too many companies who think we need to try social without having looked at, do we need social? Is social a vital tool for this? Is it the best tool for this? Because if it isn't, don't do it at all. There's nobody telling you have to.
Right.
There are things you should be doing on social media. One of them is listening. People like to make complaints in social media. So if you want to be addressing complaints, if you want to be proactive in your customer service, then you need to be on social media. But that then carries its own costs. In the surveys, if people are making complaints, 72% expect a reply within 1 hour on Facebook. 72% expect a reply within 1 hour on Twitter,
So someone
regardless
has to be there.
of what time of day.
So someone has to be there.
Right. It means you need 24-hour care, or you need advanced software that can do auto response. Whenever your name is mentioned outside of office hours, it sends them a direct message or replies to their thread saying, we're closed at the moment, we will be on this first thing in the morning. And if you don't hear from us by such and such a time, call Jed on this number.
Right. That article I shared with you from, I think it was McKinsey, talked about social care. And what are you doing on social? You're responding to customers, and they've actually drawn a correlation between listening, fielding not complaints necessarily, but consumer inquiries, if you will, and percentage increase in sales and marketing. But to your point, they invest. They don't just come on and start talking to people. They invest. They put a whole plan together. They're here to listen. They're here to engage and respond. But they know that, to your point, there's protocol. There's expectations. And if you're going to do that kind of thing, you got to make sure that you're prepared from a resource perspective to manage the expectation. Otherwise, it will backfire. So listening is certainly critical. But when let's say you're just a small local business, a lot of people go back and forth on this concept of one-to-one versus one-to-many. Certainly one-to-many is great when you have the luxury of having many followers and many people interested in you on social. Generally speaking, for a small business like the businesses that I serve, you're really looking to build relationships one-to-one. Not that you approach it one-to-one, but you're making these connections because these connections result in other things. They result in referrals. They result in potential business partnerships, on and so forth. So you're looking at different business types, different business sizes. But when you get here, as we were talking about when we first started, people expect you to be social. But what is social? What is it? Is it always fun conversation? Is it ever serious conversation? Is social meant to be just a big networking machine? What's the expectation? What's the protocol in a general way? Let's talk about some general assumptions. And I know it's different for each business type, but generally speaking, the biggest mistake I see is everybody dumps their stuff on people on social. I think we can all agree that just doesn't work.
Exactly. If you're starting out with social, for the first 2 months, you probably shouldn't post anything. Honestly, you shouldn't post anything. You should listen and get a feel for what people are saying about you, what people are saying about your area of specialization. Are they even interested in discussing it? If they're not, it's going to require a different strategy to bring it up and make that a part of conversation than if they're talking about it already. If they're talking about it already, you need to understand in what context and frame your approach knowing that. So even if it's, people are pretty negative about this, well, you're going to need to start from that point. You're going to need to address that. It's no good blithely ignoring it and pretending it isn't happening. That's not going to work. That's going to annoy people. That's not being social. You're completely dismissing what they're saying, and no friend does that. So start by listening, look for the cues in the conversation, in what's already happening, then start networking with the people you can make the easiest connections with first. So people who are in your area, people who are customers, people who've already talked about you, people who've talked about related things. Don't be pushy. This isn't about putting your business out there. It's not about advertising. It's about connecting. And the important part is to make people feel that you are paying attention to them, and they will then want to pay attention back. If you don't seem to be paying attention, if you seem to be talking at them instead of with them, that's a big turn off, and they soon stop listening to you. Rajesh in the comments said, does conversation really happen on social media? And well, it varies. There are some people who are doing social media and they get a lot of pluses, they get a few shares, but there never seems to be any actual conversation on their posts. And so for them, they probably say, no, conversation doesn't really happen. For me, I get quite a lot of conversation, but I approach it in ways that it sparks conversation. I'm not afraid to express my point of view and debate with others, whether that's good or not. And we have open conversations. They know that I'm not just going to dismiss anything out of hand. And sometimes they've got questions about what I've said. Sometimes they disagree, and that's good. And we have great conversations about it.
Conversation starter is big. I'm glad you used the word conversation, because I view the world as a series of conversations, no matter what. Even an advertisement is the beginning of a conversation to me. That just might be because of my sales background, but generally speaking, I view social as a series of conversations. So the skill set required is, how do I learn how to start conversations? To me, the first thing you want to do is develop a sense of curiosity, as I've lamented about forever, and asking questions. I'm working with an accountant now who is getting her feet wet on Google Plus because she's an accountant for lawyers, and there's a lot of lawyers on Google Plus. And so I'm sort of coaching and advising her on how to get involved in the conversation. You go into a community, you don't dump your latest blog, ask a question. See if someone, and be humble about it. See if someone will answer. And sure enough, people come in, they answer the question. And now you have a conversation and you're meeting people. You're not selling to people. You're not marketing to people, but you're certainly making them aware of you. You know, and awareness is key. It's your expertise. It's your level of specialty. But it starts with the question. It starts with a, hey, what do you think? Not first dumping on people saying this is what I think, even though that certainly does happen. I've done that myself. I've done some things like that that have worked and have not worked. But generally, where I'm most successful in terms of conversations is asking questions. And I think this actually works on a one-to-many too, where a brand can go in if it's B2C, and instead of dumping a piece of content or a promotion or something on it, you ask a question. Hey, what do you guys think? On a mass scale, see what they come back with, right? Because now not only are you engaging, but you're also getting a lot of feedback and some information. You're getting a tremendous volume of insights from people, you know, and which should then tell you how you should be marketing to those people. But asking the question gets people to respond, because people find it very difficult not to respond to a good question. So I would say that this is really what I was getting at when I said, well, you know, what do they do when they get there? We've decided it fits our strategy, it fits our plan. All right, how do we make this work? And what are some of the general things that we can do? It's going to be different for everybody. It's going to be different for business types, personality types. But generally speaking, I can say unequivocally, if you get started, even if you've been here for a while and it hasn't been working, start asking questions. Start going to people that you want to meet and ask them, hey, what do you think about this? Right? You agree?
For that accountant who specializes in lawyers, you know, starting some conversations with, here are the top 5 things that I've learned from my lawyer clients that they weren't doing before. You know, money they were leaving on the table, or money they were giving to the government that they didn't have to. Now, that's going to pull in more attention. That's going to be the kind of thing they share with their partners and possibly with their friends who are also in the trade. But more importantly, that's something that shows you're aware of their business and how you can help them. And that's about building that connection. Invite them to share their own tips. And not only are you getting the conversation, but you may be getting some more business advice there that's helping you develop your services and your products.
Correct.
People will tell you what they want to buy.
That is correct. I almost wish we could go back in time and have you say that again. Because that is what it's just so important, you know, because this, and really I'm talking to small businesses. I'm not talking to IBM. So we can really make this about small businesses. You know, I know Jeff Bond is out there. He's a small business owner and whatnot. And he's great at engagement. He's great at answering questions. He's great at sparking conversation. You know, you build a great connection with him, whatever. But the point is that these are the simple little things that I say, you know, forget all the nonsense about likes and shares and all that other stuff. Get out there and take it one person at a time in your community. Meet some people. See how it grows. See how it evolves. Build a reputation. Build a brand around one person. And then that one person tells another person. Maybe it's 3 or 4 people, but each one of those people has followers. And sooner or later, you're talking to one person, but you're also talking to 15,000. And that's a pretty decent sized market in a small community. But the thing is you can't go at it saying, I want to promote this. No, I just want to go and I want to talk to that person. I want to meet that person. How do I do it? Ask them what they think. And you think about this. I wrote this in an article one time. I go into a party. I don't know anybody in the party. Is the first thing that I do walk up to the first stranger I see and go, hey, my name is Vin. Look at my head. It's huge. No, that's not what I do. I walk up and say, hey, how you doing? What do you do for it? Or, hey, who do you know here? You're asking them questions about them. Right? So that's
and
what
they turn around and say, my God, your head is huge.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to you, dude. Your head is enormous. Let's talk about your head. I don't want to talk about my job. I can't get past that head.
So it is. When we're on social media, we are walking into a party. There are conversations already going on. The only people who aren't already in conversation are new arrivals. Now, if you want to run a community and spot who's joining, those people you can talk to quite openly and you start the conversation. Therefore, you define where it starts. But for everybody else, look at where they're at in conversation and you fit in. And if that means You have to sit nodding for a while they talk about something you're not that interested in to gauge the conversation. Well, isn't that exactly what we would do? We either stand there and wait for an opportunity to join this conversation, or we look for a conversation where, you know, maybe it's more to our taste. That's what you should be doing on social media. And too many people, they'll spot their local town community and think, right, I need everyone in town to know I'm here, and start blabbing. And you haven't looked at where the conversation's at or what they're talking about, and that's not good. That's not social.
Yeah, you want to insert yourself subtly. There's a chiropractor that I work with via Business Network International, BNI chapter, and he gives out quite a few referrals every week. And you want to know what he does? He goes to local Facebook pages for towns and communities, and he spot checks people asking questions. Anybody know, is there an electrician in the community? Anybody know if there's a plumber in the community? And what he does is he reaches out to them, and he passes a referral off to them, but he also builds a relationship with them. And what do you think he's doing at the same time? He's letting them be aware or become aware of the fact that he's a chiropractor in the town. He's not advertising and promoting himself. He's listening on behalf of somebody else. He's joining the conversation in this local community via Facebook, passing referrals along to other professionals, and he's building a whole ecosystem of people talking about him. And he's doing it just because, you know, he understands this is how business works. So when you're listening and you're participating, you're also promoting yourself because it's you. You're there. People can't help but become aware of you when you're joining the conversation and making it about them.
Exactly. And most people like to talk about themselves. Sometimes, you know, they'd rather get away from a specific topic about themselves. They want a distraction. But a lot of the time, yeah, you know, talk about them. That's something they're an expert in, and something you want to know about anyway. The more you learn about them, the better you'll be able to connect and to influence them.
Yes, there's a number of stories that we could tell you, but I think this is a critical thing. You know, I wish I could see more business owners doing this kind of thing versus just marketers who maybe just do it instinctively. But the local businesses that I serve can certainly, you know, benefit from this kind of thing. By asking questions. You do that when you know, someone comes into your dental office and they're sitting in your chair. One of the first things you do is ask them, how you doing? How's life? How's your daughter? Did they get into the school they wanted to get into? You know, we're asking them questions about themselves. You do the same thing on social. How's everything going?
Although dentists do that thing, you know, they ask you a question and then they shove something in your mouth so you can't answer.
You certainly can't answer. But at least on Facebook, you don't have that thing in your mouth. So it's a little bit easier to do. Conceptually, though, we're on target. It's the same. You do this. You're a dentist. You do this. Just do it on Facebook. Exactly. Do it on social. The other thing that I like to talk about is, and I do more and more of this in talking to my clients, is this notion of cause marketing. And from a local perspective, I think getting involved in the local community is the big thing. I'm doing this now with several of my clients. The cases will be published for people to see how it works. But the reason, there's a number of reasons I want to do this, whether it's social or otherwise. But the reason it applies to social is because a cause, by definition, is social. So if I get involved with a cause right out of the gate, I become more social. So by doing that, I make social more impactful. And I also make myself better prepared to have an impact on social. So I'll give you an example. If I'm a dentist and I donate a portion of my proceeds to a dog shelter, I'm going to go out to Facebook. I'm going to talk about the dog shelter. I'm going to talk about dogs because there's a lot of dog lovers in the community. There's also a lot of dog lovers on Facebook, right? That's going to get more of a response. It's going to get more engagement. It's going to get more awareness because I'm not talking about dentistry. I'm talking about something that impacts the community to an audience that needs dentistry. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of started this with, you know, what are you doing it for? Well, once you know what you're doing it for, and it's, you know, it's a good strategy, it actually makes business sense. It's not just we think this will translate into something else. You know, I'm posting on social because if I get lots of likes, I'm sure it will help my SEO. No. You know, if there isn't an actual business case reason for this, don't do it. When we're doing that, what are the metrics of social? What should people be looking for? Let's get to that. So, is a like worth anything? And Not for really. No, it's an idea of how many people saw your thing and bothered to click like, but you don't know what it means. Did it mean that was a pretty picture? Did it mean I want more posts like this, but I have no interest in you? What is actually being liked worth in business? There are tons of people that I adore, that I love, but I wouldn't do business with them if my life depended on it. There is a great difference between being liked and being preferred. And where you're at with business is always being preferred. You want to be the preferred supplier, the preferred vendor. You don't want to be liked. Likes might be a pity vote because they're never going to deal with you. They like you. Yeah, you're a trier. You've got no hope of succeeding, but you're a trier. They love you. And that's not what you want to be. So likes, pluses, things like that, they may be great vanity metrics, but they don't usually translate in any way, shape, or form to business. You can post pictures of kittens that will get 100 pluses and will do nothing for your business.
The pluses, okay. So I talked about this recently. The pluses and likes, they can't be ignored entirely because they do represent something. The question is, does that something represent a business gain or benefit? So one of the first things we can do is say, who's liking our stuff? And then ask, why are they liking it? What are they doing as a result? So the like is the beginning of it. It's not the end. So you say preferred. I say, well, they can't really prefer me if they don't like me first. I'm saying like in general, not like on Facebook. I'm saying, you know, I know, like, and trust, right? This is the point. Now they become the preferred vendor. So I wouldn't stop at the like. I wouldn't stop at the share. I would look at what's all this doing for me. Is it being shared by who? And does that result in more awareness?
Okay. Let me go to that one because
go ahead.
That it seems logical that people, you know, will want to like us before they'll do business with. It's not true. I am with a telecom company that I hate. I would like nothing more than to get rid of this telecom company. I've walked away from them twice, but I've been to the others, and the others are so bad, so unreliable, so unprofessional that I've had to come back to the company I hate again and again and again. It's not about being liked. It's not about being hated. It's about being preferred. I would rather be with the company I dislike.
That's a good point.
Than be treated badly by the companies I like.
Yeah, in that context, particularly with telco, I'm in the same position. I cannot stand the company I work with, but I don't have a choice because
exactly.
they're the ones that
I picked that one because I know lots of people are in the same boat as me, and yeah, that's a prime example of where being liked isn't necessarily key to business. We buy a lot of things that we don't necessarily like because, do you know what? It's the one that does the job best. There are times when our practicality will go way above our like. And similarly, as I said, there are people we like, things we think are great, but we wouldn't want to do business with them.
Right. So for me, there's no like, and then there's trust. So the trust is reliability. It's, can I rely on this particular company, which ultimately translates into preferred. So you can't stop at the I'm a popular guy. You gotta that's maybe a starting point. So all things being equal, let's say the telco companies were equally able to execute and deliver. You'd obviously go with the one that you like, you know, because they're all things being equal. But in your particular case, what you're saying is preferred is a priority. You know, like is sort of a nice to have, which I agree with.
Exactly. Like can be a great USP when everything else is much the same, but most of the time people will go with what does the job above what they like. There is a level of like which will balance that out, but you have to understand it needs a lot of like. You need a lot of personal connection to do that. I used the example of the mobile phone company, the cell phone company earlier, where we needed to build that connection to make people prepared to pay that little bit more. But if they had felt they weren't getting as good a service, the whole point was, you know, in most of these, we don't feel like the companies have any connection with us, any interest in us as people. By making that connection, we added something to the product as well as the like. We made it so that they understood how you were going to use your phone, why you were going to want a particular phone better than anybody else. This is how you compete with Amazon. Amazon have prices because of their bulk buy discount that most small shops cannot possibly rival. Amazon can buy and sell a thing at a profit for less than some vendors can buy it from the manufacturer to resell. So it's automatic that they're going to have to charge more. How do you compete with that? Well, personal service is a huge part. Amazon is a big faceless company. Amazon produce nothing. Amazon is a system. It's a great technology system. But when you look at a page on Amazon, there is nothing there from Amazon.
Correct.
Everything on an Amazon page comes from elsewhere. It's partly from the vendor, partly user-generated comments. There's algorithms to determine other products submitted by other people, reviewed by other people. Amazon have nothing.
Yeah, so liking from the psychological perspective, it can obviously examples can be given on both sides of that debate. Liking from a Facebook perspective, I've never really been a big fan of vanity metrics to begin with. I guess if you're looking at social, is social working? It depends on what you're looking at, but there's got to be other ways to measure. There's got to be some ways to measure. Here's the thing: there's got to be some ways to measure whether or not you should or shouldn't be on social networks, because measurement not only determines if you're successful, but it also determines if you should spend more time and money there, right?
Yeah.
So if Facebook is working, and I know it's working because I've set up measurement systems to measure it, then I'm going to put more into it. So I at least have to be able to measure along the chain of the conversion, if you will. Is Facebook working? Certainly, vanity metrics, if we look at likes and shares, they are some representation that something is happening. I'm not committed to concluding that you're all of a sudden a success, but there's something there. People are paying attention. It is at least some example of the fact that people are paying attention. Am I wrong there?
Okay, it's telling you that people are paying attention, but you've still got to determine whether it's the right people paying the right attention in the right context. So
correct.
Again, it's got to be strategy. Look,
right.
You've got a website and you want more traffic. It's really, really easy. Give away free bacon to everyone that comes in. You won't get any more business, but my goodness, you'll get a lot more traffic.
Correct.
And this kind of thing happens. If you viewed every footfall in a physical store as well, it's a sign of interest. Yeah, well, maybe somebody's put use our lavatories free on a sign outside. You've got hundreds of people coming in, but they might be impressed by your shop. They're getting exposed to the shop, but unless your conversion rate from people just seeing it, even when they're not interested, is very high, it's probably worth less in terms of the wear and tear that your shop is getting and the crowds and discomfort for the actual customers than you're gaining from it. So you need to understand exactly what you're doing. Be very, very careful with any metric that seems kind of sensible but doesn't actually tie to a bottom line. If you can't see the money.
Yeah, I totally agree. I want people to hear this again and again and again, because I get constantly asked, hey, Vin, can we do a contest for an iPad on Facebook because I want to get more likes? And I just say, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, really? You're not in the business of iPads and contests, so why would you do that? Those likes are going to be completely, it's like literally getting business cards at a conference when you're giving out an iPad or a chance for a $15 million Ferrari. You're going to get all these cards from people. Really, those people represent people who want a Ferrari, not what you sell.
It's out of date. It's not necessarily a bad strategy. There was a time when Facebook first brought in likes that having more likes made you more visible. So anything you could do to bribe or trick your way into getting more likes seemed like it was going to be a good thing. However, the other foot came down a while ago. If you have lots of people like you and very few of those actually engage with you, that's a big negative signal. So getting more likes than you actually have ongoing interest in your business, comments on your stream, activity generally, and real interest is a negative. It's a big negative.
The visibility is a big thing. Visibility is a component of any decent marketing and sales campaigns. I can't sell something to somebody that they're not aware of. So that's a big thing, and visibility matters. And there's ways of going about getting visibility. The easiest way is to take out a $50,000 a month billboard on the side of a highway. You're going to be visible. It's just a lot of money to become visible. So the question becomes, how can you become visible and build an emotional connection with people? Build a goodwill along the way. It's one of the reasons why I like the cause-oriented stuff, is because I'm building an emotional connection, not just getting shares and likes of a puppy on Facebook, but I'm using it to build a brand business that isn't just in business to be in business. They're in business to help the community.
Yeah.
People talk about that. You know, that creates a buzz. Hey, did you hear what so-and-so's doing? You know, I'm about to engage with a CPA teaching financial literacy to the public school systems. And every once a month, there's going to be a session for the next this entire school year for 9 sessions. She's going to go and get an enormous amount of publicity because the superintendent of schools is going to be getting the press involved, but she's also going to be reaching parents. Parents are going to be talking about it. There's mothers groups, and she's getting a lot of awareness for the cost of some printed out PowerPoint slides in an hour a month. You know, she's going to be getting a lot of awareness, visibility. You know,
Exactly.
and a lot of that visibility is going to be in front of businesses that she can serve.
This is where we started with the listen to the conversations that are going on, because people are telling you their concerns all the time, and you can understand how better to connect with the people you want to connect with, because you can understand what's on their mind, what concerns, what causes do they actually have in mind that would be worth something to them, because it's very easy to jump on the wrong cause.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's actually the whole part of making it a marketing component is just what you said, and that is, but you got to go out and listen. So if you're going to use social, you go out and you see, these are the people I want to reach. What do they care about? Facebook actually makes it pretty easy to find that out. So you look and see, what do these people care about? Well, I'm going to get involved with that because it's also what I care about, and then there's sincerity on both fronts. But it's a great
and make sure it does fit with the business as well.
Of course.
You know, if you have a slaughterhouse and you're against animal cruelty, it's not necessarily going to work. There might be a point where, you know, you're doing things right. Look, animals have to be put down. You know, there's still going to be a meat industry, but we want to make sure it's done with as much respect and as much kindness as possible. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not going to get a huge amount of support, and it is going to get some pushback. It will get some conversation.
Yeah, in fact, we could do a whole session. Maybe I'll add it to the list on cause marketing, because it does fit into the social narrative. The reason I brought it up in terms of social is because it's social. It is by default a social campaign. But yes, there's a million different components to setting up a successful campaign. One of them is a synergy between you and the cause. So McDonald's isn't going to go out and do a campaign on fitness because there isn't a lot of synergy between eating a Big Mac and being physically fit. But I bring it up only because I really want to stress, when you get out to social media, no matter what the business is, try to focus on being social. Try to focus on building relationships. Try to focus on listening to the people that you want to sell to, see what they care about, and join the conversation one way or another. Create a conversation they like, join the conversation they like. At the end of the day, if we get nothing else out of this last 60 minutes of our lives, to me, social is about conversations. It's not about promotions. If we're talking about advertising, we can shift a little bit and talk about promotions. But I would even argue, if we're advertising on social, we should make it about creating a conversation. We should make the advertisement social, not promotional. Does that make sense?
Exactly. And remember, most of the time, the use of social media to business isn't so your business can talk, because you can do that anywhere. There are 1,000 different communication mediums out there that were built for businesses to talk through. You've got every kind of advertising ever invented is open to businesses to buy space in. The value of social is in customers talking to other customers without the advertising, without the marketing. So one of the most important things you can do on social media is help people find other customers that are talking about you in a positive way. It's about boosting other people's voices, not yours.
So there's a book I'll reference in the closing comments called Absolute Value, written by a couple of professors. The bottom line of the book is summarized as follows: people can experience you now before they experience you. So what that means is they can look out on the internet, reviews, testimonials, whatever it is, conversation, Social media, forums, Angie's List, Yelp, all these technologies have made it easy for people to talk about you. And it's also made it easy for people to find out about you, not from your conversation, but from somebody else's conversation. The reason it's called absolute value is I'm getting close to experiencing your value without actually experiencing it. The point is it goes back to the core principle here. Define who you are, build a product or service, deliver it to a point where people love it, they want to talk about it, and that becomes your marketing campaign. And then you can encourage and boost that conversation on social networks by participating yourself. The reality is a large component of value that businesses aren't necessarily seeing is that social is where people are talking about you. They're talking about everything. Hey, what do you recommend? Well, I recommend this. Hey, I just had a great experience here. This is the point. This is the point of it. So if you focus on being good, being so good that people want to talk, the social kind of takes care of itself. And I say that tongue in cheek a little bit. I know it's not that simple, but you can actually get something out of social by not being on social.
Oh yeah.
By just being good, being really, really good at what you do.
There's a good few restaurants where they frame some of the best reviews from customers up on the wall. Now this is brilliant because they're repurposing them. You know, even people that aren't on the internet can now read these reviews. But it's also sending a message. It's showing everybody that comes into that place how much they like those reviews. And it's a bit like those bars and things that used to put the postcards customers had sent from all over the world there, and of course it makes other customers want their picture to be up. So next time they go away on vacation, they send a postcard.
Right.
Well, it's exactly that. When they see these reviews up on the wall, they suddenly want to put their review up there. Everyone wants their 15 minutes of fame. So that kind of thing really works. When somebody does say something good about you on social media, don't necessarily just think of, you know, seeing their post and saying, hey, that was good. You could put in your stream, thank you so much to so-and-so for their review, which highlights it to others. Now they're seeing somebody else's review and seeing that you value it. But you know what would be really cool? Look, if you're a local business, you know who wrote that review. And if you can't quite put the name to the Facebook, that's what their social media profiles for. Look at their pictures. Know who it is. Have your front desk or your receptionist or you yourself have that picture nearby, so the next time they walk in, you can thank them in person.
That's it. That's everything. I'm doing this today. I'm actually doing this, encouraging this today. I'm saying, you know, if people are talking about you and they're saying good things, you know who they are. Call them, email them, thank them, do something. Let them know that you're paying attention. And this is where you join that conversation on and offline. And in fact, I don't see social value as just being an online component. It should synchronize with everything that you do offline. Everything that you just said is a way to synchronize what's happening. But at the core of it is, you know, if you're really good at what you do, if you're the preferred vendor, people will talk. And if they like you, they'll talk about you even more. And by the way, same holds true when they don't. You look at that dentist that hunts lions, right? His business was ruined because of the speed with which information travels is something everybody should be concerned about. So if you really don't get anything else out of this 60 minutes, understand this: if you stink, the world is going to know, and they're going to know quick. They're going to know a lot faster than they ever knew before, because word travels faster than it's ever traveled before, largely due to social, among other things.
You do need to keep your finger on the pulse. You do need to be listening to social these days, because not doing anything about some things is as bad as
Totally
doing it yourself.
That's a large part of what I do. I listen on behalf of some of the people I serve. I scan and search to see what's going on.
Did you see the recent example of the guy who posed as a Target employee? All he did was pose, you know, he picked a name that had a customer service connotation and he used the Target logo. And when anyone complained about Target, he wrote, oh, these really trollish responses. It was because Target took away the gender aisles for their toys. So there was no longer a boys' toys aisle and a girls' toy aisle. There was simply toys aisles. Let your children have whatever toys they like. Now, this isn't saying your girls have to pick boys' toys or your boys have to pick girls' toys, but it was about saying, look, let kids play with what they want to play with. You know, we're not going to define this. Let your child pick the toys they want, and if that's what they want, let them play with them. Brilliant. I thought it was superb. Obviously, other people thought that it was superb, including this guy who decided to troll everyone that was complaining about it. Because lots of people jumped on this. I'm not having people voiced their, you know, lesbian, gay, communist principles on me. I'm never shopping there again. And this guy would say, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Fantastic stuff. You can find it online, but it is something Target should have been aware it was happening faster and let people know this guy doesn't work for us. He's funny, but he doesn't work for us.
It's funny, and there's so much that can happen in a good and a bad way. So at a minimum, you know, I warn my clients, you know, be good, because if you're not good, it's going to get out there, and it happens. It's far more transparent now than it ever was. I mean, it's just the way it is. You can just search real quick. Does anybody like this guy? Anybody like this girl? You know, look at reviews, whatever's going on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus.
As a final thing, don't be afraid to be human. Look, we all make mistakes. The thing is to be quick at owning up and saying, oh, sorry, I didn't even see that one.
In fact, I think the need to be human is more important now than it's ever been. Ever. Yeah. So with that, any closing remarks, and then we'll sign off for another 2 weeks.
Really, the core is in the name. Look, this is called social media. It's called social networking. You have to be social. If you're not good at social, you're not going to have great success on those forms of media. You probably need to either hire somebody who is good at it, or really, really play it safe. Have somebody that vets everything you're going to say before you say it. And spend more time listening than talking.
Yeah, we could probably do a whole show, follow-up to this on hostility and rage, but how that comes across on social. Maybe we will. Maybe a little quick snippet, half-hour
I think
show.
one on how to deal with negative would be certainly something to consider, because negative comments, negative reviews, they're going to happen.
Sure. Okie dokie. Well, until the next session, 2 weeks from now, we appreciate everybody that came, and we enjoyed the discussion between ourselves, and hope you got something out of it. Sooner or later, I'm going to start summarizing these things in some pages where we give some nice landing pages with some video snippets and tidbits for everybody to get something from. But I got to get some time to do that. So until next time.